Yeah, it's a very unique and niche service. Have you ever heard of anticipation grief?
100%. And
Yeah, because that's very
yes.
real, and I will say, I mean, I had that for, like, years, way before we actually crossed Rainbow Bridge, you know? I
Mhm.
mean, I had that for, golly, years and years, so, I probably did think about the end of life a little bit too much. I will say it
Mhm.
didn't really help very much though either, you know?
Anticipatory grief is one of the heaviest weights we will ever carry in our life. It
Yeah,
is for even for myself, who is very versed in what that means. It felt like I had, literally a 20-pound weight on my back or on my chest
yeah,
at all times,
Mm.
when my dog was at the last stage of her life. So when people say, "Gosh, we've been dreading this day," I know dread does not even begin.
yeah,
You
Yeah.
feel ripped apart on a daily, especially when you're seeing a pet that is walking through chronic disease states, and
yeah.
every little milestone of that disease makes you go, "Ugh," and you just feel the reality of
Oh,
the
yeah,
situation. So I understand the anticipatory grief could be an entire conversation by itself.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, I clearly, when you get a dog, you know they're gonna die at some point, you know, and
Mhm.
it's like, you don't really think about I mean, it's kinda like whenever you're getting older as a human, right? Whenever you're young, you think you're
100%.
invincible and you're
Mhm.
kinda dumb and stuff, and as
Mhm.
you get
Yeah.
older, you know, you're like, "Okay, well, I'm a lot less invincible than I thought I was," and as you know, near it gets closer and closer, and I think the same thing, happened with Mia where, I guess where I was headed with that is, like, 3 days before you're supposed to come out, it was Wednesday night, it was 10 PM, and you were scheduled to get to our house at Saturday at 10 AM, and I
Mhm.
was like, "That's 60 hours," and then
Yeah.
I woke up the next day, and then whenever 10 o'clock rolled around, I'm like, 48 hours, then
Yeah.
36, then 24, and then the morning of, it's like 6 hours, 4 hours, and it was just, oh golly, the anticipation, like, was by far the worst part of the whole thing,
Mhm.
definitely years out for sure, but definitely I mean,
Mhm.
hours before, it's like, I don't know. I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse that I got to plan it, or if I would have rather it just happened a lot more suddenly. And I don't know you know, what would have been better, but
Yeah.
I'm sure they both would have sucked regardless.
I tell people all the time, whether we say goodbye because of a sudden trauma and we had no time to prepare. I mean,
Mhm.
I've had animals go that way,
Yeah.
where everything's fine one minute and the next minute they're just gone, like that
Mhm.
Yeah.
that is a different I think there is a difference in that grief versus a chronic illness where we have been medicating, managing, acupuncture,
Right.
therapy. We've been doing all the things to support their body
Mhm.
for as long as we possibly can,
Yeah.
but we are also able to help them by protecting them from
Oh,
the
yeah,
worst day,
for sure.
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
prolonged struggle. And so they're different types of grief because of that level of anticipation that we kind of unfortunately carry on our hearts.
Yeah.
But then the problem with saying goodbye very quickly is like, man,
Didn't get enough
I'll
time.
use, yeah,
Yeah.
like one of my cats was, unfortunately, she was on a screened porch, she was in a safe place, but a predator came in and literally took her out of that safe place.
Golly.
So that was very sad, and unfortunately things like that happen.
Right.
But you just feel like, man, do I blame myself for letting her
Right.
go out on the screen porch? Do I that happens,
Yeah.
but the grief is a little bit like, ugh, that's terrible. I didn't get to spend that last day with her. I didn't know that was going to happen. So there's different types of grief because of the road that we walk with our animals.
Yeah.
None of it is easy, to be clear.
Mhm.
None of
Yeah.
it is easy. But it doesn't make one road less important than the other, you
Yeah.
know? Mhm.
Well, so I think I didn't put the year in the bio that I made, but you graduated from LSU with your DVM in 2014. Was
I
that right?
did. Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
gotcha. So I guess it's 12 years now or whatnot.
Crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Time
But
flies.
so I mean, you're in a very niche service now. You specialize
Mhm.
in end of life care and helping dogs transition from life to death in people's homes, which is
Mhm.
amazing. But first, I guess starting off, so what made you want to be a vet in the first place? Because you had went to college a couple times before that. Because you came to
Yeah.
Memphis for CBU, then you
Yeah.
got a master's, and
Mhm.
then you did veterinary care as on top
Yes.
of that. So
I
you've
had
been
a
in
lot of
college a few
school.
times. Yeah, right. So yeah, what made you want to be a vet? I mean, because you had a master's in something else, and then I forget what
Mhm.
it was in exactly. What was
Um,
it?
yes, I was trying to get into vet school, and
Oh,
while
okay.
I was doing that, I was like, "Well, I have this other degree program that has accepted me, sure." And so I went and got a master's in public health.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that was a great experience because it actually opened my eyes to a lot more in terms of opportunities because I still wanted to go to vet school.
Right.
But when you kind of walk into the field of public health, you realize like, wow, there are veterinarians in public health. There are, vets that work for the CDC. There's vets
Interesting.
that work for,
That would make sense. I
yeah,
guess
like,
it's just something that regular people like us just don't really think about,
oh yeah,
but
food security,
yeah,
veterinarians work in it.
interesting.
Vaccine development, veterinarians work in it.
Yeah,
I worked with a wonderful CDC vet who her job was to go out and survey bats for rabies.
interesting.
Like,
I just
whoa,
watched a
that's
documentary
crazy,
on rat. Yeah, I just watched
Yeah.
a documentary on rats last night in New York
Mhm.
City, and
Yeah.
there's vets that do that, you know?
Yeah. So that
Anyways,
trying to maintain infectious disease,
yeah,
like these are all roles that veterinarians do play
interesting.
in order to keep the public health
Yeah.
at not just the animal health, but also human health
Mhm.
under control. And so I did that master's and then I did get into veterinary school and
Which is
said, okay,
quite a feat in
yeah,
itself because vet school's not easy to get into. It's quite
it's not,
challenging from my
no.
understanding.
To be very honest, it took me 3 times. I got in on my 3rd try,
Third time's
and,
a charm.
yeah, 3rd time's a
Mhm.
charm. I never wanted to give up on pursuing it
Yeah.
because going back to your initial question, even as a kid, I never wanted to do anything else.
Mm,
I may have deviated slightly in my teenage phase when all
sure.
girls wanna be marine biologists and swim with the whales at all
Yeah.
Right.
times.
Yeah.
But it was always for me, it was very clear and firm, I wanna be a vet.
Interesting.
And I think that's mostly because I was a kid that didn't mind friends, human friends, but
Yeah.
when it came to what my preference was, I would much rather be hanging out with the local street
Oh,
cats
yeah.
or the doodle bugs in my backyard,
Yeah.
or I was not allowed to have a dog until I was 13.
Okay.
You can guarantee, like, that's all I thought about as a
Well
kid was when I was gonna get my first
Mm.
dog,
well